Hey everyone, my name is Justin Devine. I'm living here in Beaverton, Oregon. I live with my wife, Michaela, and our four children, ages, oh, I shouldn't have started this process. I gotta get them right now. 9, 8, 6, and 2 are the four of them, and we have our roommate, Garrett, as well, who lives with us right now. And so we've lived in Beaverton now for a handful of years. I work as a youth director at St. Matthew Lutheran Church here in Beaverton. We technically live in what they call Aloha, but it's a Beaverton address, so it's a little bit easier. Aspect of my identity that I hold dear, I like I almost didn't even know what the question meant, despite the examples. I guess I'll just go with being a parent right now. I think that's a an aspect that I certainly enjoy a great deal, and obviously it consumes a fair amount of my thought energy as well. Am I doing a good job parenting and things of that nature as well? My experience as a preacher so far, so I guess I've been preaching off and on since I started. I've been a youth minister now for uh, 17 years, and I was 2 years on staff with Campus Crusade. So it's basically 20 years professional ministry this year that kicks off. And I've been preaching probably, 6 times a year roughly since 2008. In 2020, it was more like 15 times, and then the last couple of years, it's maybe been more like 2 or 3 times. So it just kind of has depended on what my role is at different churches in terms of worship and things like that. And so I have a fair amount of preaching experience for sure. Um, what I enjoy about it, I think sometimes as the youth person and somebody who goes and preaches four-ish times a year, you kind of have your finger on the pulse a little bit better sometimes of what people in the pews are thinking and feeling. You're listening to a lot more sermons than you're giving, and so I think it allows you to connect with the audience at a high level. I think what's most difficult is actually the other stuff that comes with preaching, like running the liturgy of a service and doing other aspects. I think sometimes we forget that pastors have more than one thing on their mind at a time, and they're not just preaching often in services. And I would say that often the other logistics that are happening in a worship service are more complex than the preaching. In fact, when I just have to preach, I mostly find it fairly easy and straightforward, and just a lot of fun and very relaxing and refreshing that way. Some thoughts about what makes preaching effective. I think having a strong sense of like where your audience is at on a corporate level, I think that's really important. I think knowing kind of what people are going through, maybe what things in their life are concerning them, things in your congregation that maybe there's a thread that's happening amongst families. If there's been a big global event that's taken the news, that kind of stuff. I think that's an important thing. I also think it could be transformative in that I think a lot of Christians like know Bible stories and don't really have a lot of connection to them in terms of how they actually apply to their lives. And so I think giving people some concrete application actually goes a long way in their spiritual development. And that's one thing that I think that I especially hear from younger members of our congregation when I do preach is like, hey, are you gonna give us something or tell us something that we can actually do because of this, or are we just gonna sit and listen to somebody talk for 20 minutes? And I definitely think that the more concrete or suggestive application you can have, I think it adds a great deal of value for sure. One of the specific goals in delivery or format, I think always I just want more options. Our congregation has a fairly wide range of listeners, and so just continuing to have a repertoire of illustrations, references, and things like that that reach a breadth of people. And so not just focusing on something that connects to young people or older generations or things like that, but having maybe 3 or 4 examples that run the gambit of the audience that I'm preaching to, for sure. Um, and then for the content, I would say, or the delivery, I guess, I would say that there's a just a like a fluidity and a fluency to it. I I worked with a pastor who went to Princeton, and they were very, very keen on public speaking polish and things like that. And I don't have a super high value on that, but every once in a while it's nice to get up there and deliver something without a stutter or a murmur or stammer and some uhs and okays and that kind of stuff. And so I think limiting those utterances would go a long way for sure. One way it can be praying for me, I would just go with I have 4 classes left total. This is one of the last 4, and taking 2 now and 2 in the summer, and I graduate here in June. And that, yeah, just trying to finish the race, if you will. And so I think that's a great way that I could be prayed for right now. So looking forward to interacting with everyone and watching people's sermons and things like that as we go through the quarter. All right, have a great one. Bye.